Capítulo 1. The First Reflection. They say curiosity kills, but nobody told Thomas that curiosity could show you the exact way you'd die. I was there the night he found the mirror. The church had been abandoned for decades, its walls cracked open by storms, its pews gnawed by rot. We were boys then, sneaking in like fools with nothing better to do, daring each other to explore the crypt. The air smelled of wet stone and something metallic, like rust or blood. That's when Thomas's lantern flickered and caught it. A tall, dust-choked mirror leaning against the altar as if someone had hidden it there long ago. The glass was strangely clear, untouched by time, while the frame, blackened wood carved with twisting vines, seemed alive under the light. "Go on," one of us whispered. "Look into it." Thomas, always the brave one, stepped closer. I remember how his breath fogged the glass for just a second, then cleared. And there, God help us, he saw himself. But not as he stood. No. He saw his body lying in the street, bones twisted, his face pale blue, eyes wide open at nothing. A carriage wheel stained red rolled past his chest. We laughed nervously, said it was a trick of the light. But Thomas, he couldn't laugh. His hands shook so hard the lantern almost slipped. For the next 7 days, he told us about the vision again and again, swearing it felt real, swearing he could smell horse sweat and hear iron wheels grinding. He stopped sleeping. His hair grew damp with fear. Every shadow looked like the end rushing toward him. On the 7th night, I woke to screams outside. People ran into the street with torches. I shoved past the crowd, my heart pounding until I saw it. Thomas lay sprawled exactly as the mirror had shown, his body broken beneath the wheel of a runaway carriage, his eyes open to the same emptiness we had seen in the glass. And when I turned back, swear on my soul, the church doors were shut tight. Inside, through the cracked window, the mirror glowed faintly, as if it had just finished feeding. From that moment I knew the truth. The mirror does not lie. It waits, it chooses, and once it shows you the reflection, nothing in heaven or hell can stop it. Capítulo 2. The Priest Who Saw Nothing. After Thomas's death, the church was sealed tighter than a coffin, but rumors spread faster than fire. They said the mirror inside could tell you how you'd die, and like moths to a flame, people whispered about it, feared it, yet couldn't stay away. One man, however, stepped forward without fear. Father Gabriel, the oldest priest left in the parish. He was a rigid man, skin like parchment, eyes always searching for sin. He had buried too many children, prayed over too many empty coffins. Death, to him, was not a mystery. It was a companion. He entered the church alone one winter evening, clutching only his rosary. The villagers waited outside, shivering, candles trembling in their hands. They expected screams, visions, curses. But when Father Gabriel stood before the mirror, something strange happened. Nothing. The glass showed only his weathered face, his tired eyes, his lips whispering prayers. No coffin, no blood, no horror, just emptiness. When he returned to the crowd, the people pressed him with questions. "What did you see? Was it your death? Did it speak to you?" Gabriel lifted the rosary, his voice steady. "The mirror showed me nothing. I believe it lies. Only God decides the hour." The villagers cheered. Some even laughed, relieved. Perhaps the curse was broken. Perhaps Thomas's fate had been mere accident. But I stood at the edge of the crowd and saw something different. When the priest spoke, his reflection still lingered in the dark glass behind him. Yet the reflection's mouth never moved. It stood silent, eyes hollow, lips sealed, as though it had no breath, no voice, no soul. That night, Father Gabriel returned to his rectory. He sat before his fire, clutching his Bible, whispering psalms into the embers. But when he opened his mouth to pray aloud, no words came. His throat tightened, his lips moved, but no sound rose. The mirror had not shown him a death of body. It had shown him a death of voice. By dawn, he could no longer speak at all. He walked among us silent, a priest with sermons trapped in his chest, condemned to live without words. His parish dwindled, his power faded, and he withered in silence. The mirror hadn't lied. It never lies. It simply chooses a death more cruel than we dare imagine. Capítulo 3. The Missing Sister. I thought I had learned to fear the mirror, but then she arrived. Elena. She came into the village one gray morning, clutching a weather-worn photograph of her sister, Lucia. Her voice trembled when she asked the townsfolk, "Have you seen her? She came here months ago. She never came back." We all knew. Nobody had the courage to tell her that Lucia had last been seen entering the abandoned church, lured by whispers of the cursed glass. Nobody, except me. Against my better judgment, I told Elena what I had seen, about the mirror, about the deaths. Her eyes did not flinch. Instead, she demanded to see it. That night, I led her through the ruins, the air heavy with dust and ash. She moved with a determination that frightened me more than the shadows. When we reached the altar, the mirror waited, silent, cold, almost breathing. Elena lifted the photograph, pressing it to the glass. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, the mirror shivered like water disturbed by a stone. Lucia appeared. She was pale, drenched, her hair plastered to her face as if she had been dragged into the depths of a black river. Her mouth opened, bubbles rising, her arms thrashing against invisible currents. Elena screamed her name, pounding the frame, but the reflection only sank deeper until darkness swallowed her whole. I pulled Elena back, but she collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "She's not dead," she whispered. "She's trapped." And then, we both saw it. From the corner of the mirror's frame, a thin trickle of water slid down onto the altar, pooling at our feet. I swear to you. I smelled the stench of river mud and decay. Elena lifted her head, her eyes burning. "If she's in there," she said, "I will bring her back." But even as her words echoed through the hollow church, the water on the floor crept toward her knees, rippling as though something beneath it was waiting to rise. The mirror had not shown her a death, it had shown her a promise. And promises in this place are worse than curses. Capítulo 4, the orphan's vision. Children sense things we adults are too stubborn to see. That truth became undeniable the night Matteo, the orphan boy, crept into the church. He was no older than 10, a thin shadow with eyes too ancient for his small frame. The villagers whispered he had been born on a stormy night when the bells rang by themselves, though no hands touched them. His parents died before he spoke his first word, leaving him to wander from doorstep to doorstep. One night, while others slept, Matteo slipped inside the abandoned chapel. No one dared follow him, not even the drunkards who sometimes lingered near the ruins. I only know what happened because I was there, hiding in the dark, unable to sleep after Elena's tears. Matteo stood before the mirror, barefoot, holding a candle so small it seemed the flame itself was shivering. The glass quivered, and his reflection leaned closer, lips parting. What he saw made his candle fall. The mirror did not show his death. It showed the death of everyone else. The village itself engulfed in fire, roofs collapsing, mothers screaming, animals burning alive. He saw the square littered with bodies, and the sky black with smoke. Matteo didn't cry. He laughed. A high, brittle sound that clawed at my spine. "They will burn," he whispered. "All of them." I ran from my hiding place, grabbed him by the shoulders. His face was pale, his eyes fever bright. "What did you see?" I begged. His answer was simple, too simple. The end. The next day, he tried to tell the villagers. They brushed him off, calling it nightmares, the fantasy of a lonely boy. But when he pointed to the innkeeper's roof and said, "Flames will eat that first," I saw the man's face pale. That night, smoke rose. The inn went up in fire as if soaked in oil, screams echoing through the streets. The boy's prophecy had come true. Matteo stood among the crowd, smiling through the glow of the flames. He whispered to himself like a prayer, "The mirror never lies. The mirror never lies." And I began to wonder if the boy was no longer a victim of the glass, but its messenger. Capítulo 5, the lover's curse. Love, they say, can conquer anything. But the mirror knew better. The mirror knew that love could be twisted into a blade. It was Rosa and Daniel who proved it. They were the kind of couple villagers whispered about, inseparable, always walking hand in hand. Their laughter like music in a town that had forgotten joy. If anyone deserved to escape the curse of the mirror, it was them. But love makes people reckless. One evening, Rosa dared Daniel, "Let's look together. If it shows us death, then we'll face it side by side." I begged them not to. I told them what I had seen. Thomas, Father Gabriel, little Matteo. But they laughed, young and foolish, convinced their love was stronger than superstition. So they stepped before the glass, fingers interlaced. For a heartbeat, the mirror showed their smiling faces. And then, horror. The reflection changed. Rosa's hands were wrapped around Daniel's throat, squeezing until his face turned purple. Daniel, in turn, held a blade buried deep in Rosa's chest. They were killing each other, locked in a deadly embrace that looked more like passion than murder. Rosa shrieked and covered her mouth. Daniel shouted that it was lies, tricks, shadows. They clung to each other, whispering promises. We will never let this happen. We will never turn against each other. But the mirror doesn't show lies. It shows inevitability. From that night, their love soured. Every argument felt heavier. Every touch carried suspicion. I watched them unravel before my eyes. Two souls poisoned by fear. When Rosa cried, Daniel's eyes darted to her hands as if they were already tightening around his throat. When Daniel sharpened his knife for hunting, Rosa trembled, remembering the blade in her chest. And then, one stormy night, it happened. Their screams echoed through the village, sharp as thunder. By the time I forced open the door, the prophecy was fulfilled. Rosa lay with blood blooming across her dress. Daniel's lifeless body sprawled beside her, bruises around his neck like a dark necklace. They had fought to escape their fate, but in trying to resist it, they had delivered themselves into its arms. As I stood over them, the storm quieted, and I swear I heard it, the faintest sound of laughter drifting from the abandoned church. It was the mirror, and it was pleased. Capítulo 6, the collector. The curse had claimed the young, the holy, even the innocent. We thought the mirror belonged only to our village, bound to our soil like a sickness that would never leave. We were wrong. He arrived at dusk, a tall man in a long black coat, his boots polished, his eyes sharp as broken glass. He called himself Vargas, a traveler, a collector of rare things. But he was no ordinary merchant. His presence felt rehearsed, as though he'd stood at our doors before in another life. Vargas asked no questions about crops, trade, or lodging. He asked only about the church, about the mirror. "I'll buy it," he said plainly, as if offering to purchase a loaf of bread. "Name your price." The villagers muttered, some crossing themselves, others spitting at the ground. No one dared answer. But I saw the way Vargas's gaze lingered, not on us, but on our fear. He was measuring it. That night he walked alone into the church, ignoring our warnings, a lantern swinging from his hand. I followed at a distance, too curious, too afraid to be brave, yet unable to turn away. When Vargas stood before the mirror, he did not flinch. His reflection appeared instantly, not of his death, but of a family, a woman and 2 children, pale and lifeless, sprawled across a floor I did not recognize. Vargas's jaw tightened, and for the first time I saw his mask crack. "They're still with me," he whispered, voice raw. "After all these years." I understood then. Vargas wasn't here to own the mirror. He was here to confront it. He had seen it before. Perhaps he had once possessed it. Perhaps it had already destroyed him. The glass trembled, and the reflection of his dead family faded. In its place, I saw Vargas himself, older, weaker, but alive. The mirror was offering him something, or taunting him. He struck the frame with his fist. "Show me the end," he demanded. "Show me what you took from me." But the mirror stayed silent. Only his reflection stared back, lips curved into a smile that did not belong to him. Vargas left the church that night with eyes darker than when he entered. He told no one what he had seen, yet I knew he had not come to save us. He had come to reclaim what he once lost, and perhaps to help the mirror find new souls to feed. Capítulo 7, the Midnight Mass. It was Vargas who proposed it, though no one would admit it later. "Bring them all," he said. "If the mirror feeds on fear, then starve it. Face it together, not alone." And so, for the first time since the church was abandoned, its doors groaned open for a congregation. Midnight fell heavy on the village. The air was thick with incense, though no priest stood to bless it. Families clutched one another, candles quivering in their hands, shadows dancing on cracked stone walls. The mirror waited at the altar, silent, patient. At first, nothing happened. People whispered nervously, then louder. Perhaps Vargas was right. Perhaps together they could break its curse. Hope fluttered in the stale air. Then the glass rippled. One by one, faces in the crowd twisted into horror as their reflections changed. The baker, pale and crushed beneath burning beams. The widow, her throat slit by unseen hands. children coughing black smoke collapsing in the streets. And then the mirror widened its reach. No longer just individuals, now it reflected the entire congregation. Dozens of villagers together, their bodies sprawled across the pews, mouths frozen in silent screams. Every single one of them dead. A woman shrieked and dropped her candle. Flames licked the floorboards. Panic erupted. The people surged toward the doors, pounding, clawing. But the ancient wood held fast, trapped. The screams rose like a hymn. I saw Vargas at the front, his face caught between awe and terror. "It's not showing death," he muttered. "It's showing hunger." The mirror pulsed with a strange light, as if alive, feeding on the chaos. And though the flames spread and smoke choked the rafters, the mirror did not crack, did not burn. It stood eternal, savoring every drop of fear. When the doors finally burst open, the villagers stumbled out, coughing, eyes wild. But the damage was done. They had seen their own deaths, not in solitude but together, as a flock destined for slaughter. The church smoldered in the night, the roof caving in. And yet, through the broken windows, the mirror still gleamed, untouched by flame. It had tasted the entire village, and I swear it would not stop until it had devoured us all. Capítulo 8. The Woman in Black. After the midnight mass, the church stood charred, its rafters broken like the ribs of a corpse. And yet, the mirror gleamed brighter than ever, untouched by smoke or flame. It was then that she appeared. At first, it was only whispers. Children claimed they saw a woman in black standing inside the glass, though no one had stepped before it. They said her veil floated as if underwater, and her hands were pale, folded as though in prayer. The adults laughed nervously, dismissing it as childish fancy. But deep down, everyone was afraid. One evening I saw her myself. I had returned to the ruins, drawn by a compulsion I couldn't resist. The air was still, heavy with the ashes of burned wood. And there, in the mirror she stood, motionless, draped in a black dress that drank the light. Her face was hidden, but her head tilted, as if she could see me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Then her lips moved. No sound came, only the faint fog of her whisper against the glass. But I understood her mouth, a name, a single name. And when I left the church, I heard the village bells toll. The man whose name she had spoken was dead, collapsed in his field, blood running from his ears. The next night it happened again. Another name, another death. Panic gripped the town. Families barred their doors, praying the woman in black would not speak of them. Mothers pressed their children's ears shut, as if silence could protect them, but there was no stopping it. The woman returned night after night, each time whispering a name. Always one name, always one death. By the fourth night, the villagers begged Vargas to intervene. He stood before the mirror, fists clenched, demanding, "Who are you? What do you want?" The woman's veiled head turned slowly toward him, her hand lifted, pressing against the glass from inside. Then, she opened her mouth and spoke a name, his. Vargas staggered back, face white, breath ragged. He clutched his chest as if the soundless curse had already gripped him. Yet he lived. The woman had broken her pattern. For the first time, she had spoken a name in advance, and I understood with a chill that hollowed my bones. She wasn't just echoing death anymore. She was choosing it. Capítulo 9. The Child Who Laughed. After the woman in black, the village trembled with each nightfall. People locked their doors, nailed windows shut, and prayed in whispers too weak to reach heaven. But the mirror was not done with us. It never is. It chose a child next. Her name was Inés, no older than 7, with tangled hair and a smile too wide for her face. One afternoon she slipped away from her mother and wandered into the church as though summoned. When they found her, she was standing barefoot before the mirror, hands pressed to the glass. She wasn't crying, she was laughing. I was among the few who entered after her mother's screams echoed through the streets. And what I saw still clings to me like a fever. In the mirror, Inés's reflection did not match her movements. Her image lay in a coffin of white lilies, her tiny hands folded, her lips sewn shut. Yet the real Inés giggled, staring at her dead reflection as though it were a game. When we pulled her away, she only said, "I saw heaven. It was beautiful." That night, she began to change. She refused food, yet never looked hungry. She woke her mother at dawn, humming songs no one had taught her. And she laughed, always laughed, at funerals, at prayers, at silence. The villagers called her touched, cursed, chosen. Some wanted her banished. Others believed she had been blessed. But I saw the truth in her eyes. They were no longer her own. On the seventh night, Ines vanished. No broken locks, no footprints, only her laughter echoing down the empty street, fading toward the church. When we rushed inside, the mirror gleamed faintly. Behind the glass, her reflection still lay in the coffin of lilies, smiling now, as though pleased to have found her place. And then, for the first time, the mirror did not wait for silence. It laughed, a sound high and fragile, the sound of a child who no longer belonged to us. The villagers fled in terror, but I remained, staring at that coffin within the glass, the smile frozen upon her dead lips. It was then I realized the mirror had not taken her life. It had taken her joy and made it its own. Capítulo 10, the mirror's keeper. By then the village had been hollowed out by fear. Children vanished into silence, lovers turned to enemies, priests to shadows. But the mirror remained, watching, waiting. It was Vargas who first whispered of its maker. He spoke in fragments, late at night, his eyes lost in the firelight. It wasn't crafted by mortal hands alone, he said. A priest made it, a priest who no longer believed. The story spilled out like poison. Centuries ago, a monk named Aurelio had been exiled for heresy. They said he hungered for visions beyond scripture, for answers forbidden to men of faith. He prayed not to God, but to whatever listened in the dark, and something ancient answered. Aurelio built the mirror as an altar, not of silver, not of glass, but of obsidian drawn from a cave where no birds sang. He carved its frame with words no monk should have known, words that twisted like roots around bone. When it was finished, he offered his own reflection as sacrifice. From that moment he was never seen again, at least not outside the glass. Vargas led me to the church one moonless night. Look closer, he urged, not at your reflection, at what stands behind it. I did, and I saw him. A figure cloaked in rotting robes, his face half hidden, half rotted, hands clasped as if still in prayer. His eyes burned faintly, like embers refusing to die. He stood behind my reflection, unmoving, patient. The keeper, Vargas whispered. He does not die. He waits. Each soul the mirror claims strengthens him. Each death is a hymn. I staggered back, but the glass did not release me. For a heartbeat, my reflection lingered, lips moving though mine were still. The keeper's hand rested on its shoulder, as if claiming it. I understood then. The mirror was not just an object. It was a covenant, a doorway between our world and his. Every death it foretold was not prophecy, but payment. And the keeper was always collecting. That night, as I tried to sleep, I dreamed of his voice, low and broken. Soon, you will not only see death, you will serve it. I woke gasping, the taste of ash on my tongue. The keeper had found me. Capítulo 11, the betrayal. By now the village was unraveling. Doors stayed barred, prayers turned to curses, and no child laughed in the streets. Yet still, the mirror endured, untouched, unbroken, unburned. Whispers began, destroy it, burn it, bury it where no eye can find it. At first, no one dared, but desperation has a way of making men bold. A plan was formed in secret. 5 of us would enter the church at midnight, armed with hammers, oil, and fire. We swore on our souls to finish what so many had feared. But oaths mean nothing when the mirror is listening. Inside the church, the air was cold as a tomb. Our lanterns shook, spilling nervous shadows across the cracked floor. The mirror stood waiting at the altar, its black frame pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. We moved quickly, circling it, ready to strike. Vargas lifted his hammer high, when suddenly a shout split the silence. Stop! It was Mateo, the orphan boy, his face pale, eyes burning with a feverish light. You don't understand, he cried. If you break it, it won't die, it will escape. The group faltered. Doubt seeped in. Whose word could we trust? The haunted boy, or the cursed glass that had stolen so much? And then it happened. One of our own, Andres, turned on us. He drove his blade into another's back, whispering through clenched teeth. The mirror promised me life, if I protect it. Chaos exploded. Steel clashed. Screams echoed. Blood stained the stone where prayers had once been sung. We had come to kill the mirror, But instead we killed each other. I stumbled back, gripping my lantern, and saw it, our reflections fighting long before we had drawn our weapons. The mirror had shown us our betrayal, and we had obeyed without knowing. When the last body fell, Andres dropped to his knees before the glass. I kept my promise, he gasped. Now give me mine. His reflection smiled, then it reached through. Not a hand, not flesh, only a shadow, black and searing, wrapping around his throat. He choked, eyes bulging, clawing at nothing, until his body collapsed lifeless at the mirror's feet. The glass pulsed once, satisfied as if it had feasted. I was the only one left alive, but survival felt no victory. For in that moment I understood. The mirror did not just show death, it orchestrated it. And none of us had ever truly had a choice. Capítulo 12, the last reflection. I should have run. I should have left the village to rot in its own curse. But something bound me to that church, to the mirror, as though my soul was already tangled in its frame. The night after the betrayal, I returned alone. The air was heavy with the stench of blood, the pews still stained from the slaughter of my friends. The church no longer felt abandoned, it felt claimed. The mirror waited. For a long time I stood at the threshold, clutching the lantern, my heart thundering against my ribs. I told myself I would smash it, burn it, bury it beneath the stones. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had not come to destroy it. I had come to see. My reflection stared back, pale, weary, eyes sunken with sleepless nights. And then the glass rippled. The image changed. I saw the village, but empty, every home crumbling, every street choked with silence. I saw the church swallowed in shadow, its bells tolling though no one pulled the rope. And in the center, before the altar, I saw myself. Only it was not death the mirror showed me. It was an ending worse than death. I stood within the glass, hollow-eyed, lips whispering words I could not hear. Behind me loomed the keeper, his hand on my shoulder, guiding my every motion. And then I understood. This was my fate. Not to die, but to serve. To become the voice that drew others to their doom. I staggered back, trembling, whispering no, no, no. But the reflection remained, lips moving faster, summoning shadows from the corners of the frame. And then I heard it. My own voice rising from the glass, speaking words I never chose. The mirror does not lie. It waits, it chooses, and now so do I. The lantern slipped from my hand, shattering against the floor. Fire burst, licking up the walls, smoke choking the rafters. But the mirror, it did not burn. Instead, it pulsed brighter, as if drawing strength from my fear. The last thing I remember was reaching out, my fingertips brushing the cold glass. And the reflection smiled. My smile, but not my soul. Now when I wake, I am not sure where I stand, on which side of the glass. And if you ever find that mirror, beware, for the next reflection it shows may be you.
Epilogue: The mirror that waits. The fire consumed the church, tearing through beams and pews until the roof collapsed in a storm of sparks. Villagers watched from the hills, clutching one another, whispering prayers that at last the curse had burned to ash. But when dawn broke, they saw it, rising from the ruin like a survivor. The mirror, untouched, unscorched. Its black frame gleamed as though polished, its glass clearer than ever. No smoke stained it, no crack marred it. It stood alone in the rubble, waiting. The villagers fled, abandoning the town one by one, scattering to other lands. Houses rotted, streets overgrew with weeds, and silence claimed the village where laughter had once lived. Years passed, decades. Travelers sometimes found the ruins. Most turned back at the sight of the blackened stones. But a few, curious, daring, or desperate, stepped inside. They spoke of a mirror standing in the ashes, reflecting not themselves, but strangers. Faces they did not know. Faces that later appeared in obituaries, in missing posters, in whispers of sudden deaths. And then, without warning, the mirror was gone. No footprints marked its absence. No hand could have carried it. It had simply vanished, leaving only a hollow in the earth where its weight had pressed. But I know this: the mirror is never destroyed. It does not die. It moves. It waits. Perhaps in a forgotten chapel at the edge of your city. Perhaps in an attic, covered by a dusty sheet. Perhaps in the corner of a room where you never dare to look too long. And if you ever find it, if the glass ripples and your reflection begins to smile before you do, remember my words. The mirror does not lie. The mirror waits.